Hello, everybody. We're going live today for the mini lesson. Hopefully, you're all having a good day. It is Tuesday. I'm trying to change this little thing at the bottom here. No. Let's go. Not that one. I don't know if I have the one I want here today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the mini live today. Is this the one I want? That's the one I want. That's the bottom I want. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of ritual and ceremony as a plant priestess. And I hope that you all are warm and cozy. Well, today it's nice and sunny, 40 degrees at least. So that's really fun to start feeling a little bit of the thaw happening here. Let's see. Let me turn on those comments. Let me know if you're here. Love to. Oh, hello, Jennifer. I see your comments. I see you. Hello. Hopefully everybody's getting the notification that I'm live. Hey, Amy. You have electricity and water. What a beautiful thing, right? Seems like everybody's got something going on somewhere. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hello. All right. Hello. Yes, let me know if you're here. We had our Plant Priestess Exploration Workshop the last couple Tuesdays. So this is one of those Tuesdays where we are not in workshop. So I'll be talking about ceremony and ritual today. Still snowing. Oh gosh, Joan, still snowing. It did snow last night a little bit here, but we are really thawing out here. So that feels good. I like that feeling. I like the feeling of some of the sun and the warmth. It does feel good. Feels really good. All right, so ritual, ceremony, what's this all about? What's going on with this as plant priestess? Well, let's just, I'm going to take some time to talk about what ritual and ceremony mean, what those two terms mean. So starting with ritual is typically thought of as, like people have daily rituals that they do, things that they do frequently and often, and usually to get to some sort of desired result. Ritual can also be thought of and is something that's done with a desired intent, and it has some specific components to it that seem to be very universal across cultures and religions. But usually with ritual, if you're doing something a little bit more specific, there's certain things that will be done to create the ritual. So I'm going to talk about ritual first, talk about daily ritual, then get into these more specific rituals that people do. And then ceremony is something that I consider to be like a ritual, but usually done in a setting where there's more people. There's a group of people. So if I kind of think of it as a tier, ritual that you do by yourself every day, something that you do daily that's usually pretty quick. Then there's the ritual that you do. Typically, I think of ritual as solitary, although there could be couple other members in that group too. But then there's that ritual with some specific components that you do. That's not something that you do daily. And then the ceremony seems to be even bigger, and is something that we do to punctuate some important thing that's happening in life. Typically marriages, birthings, new community members, things like that. So when we talk about ritual, and everybody who's just jumping on, I'm really just getting started, so you haven't missed much. Just was doing some introductions. So let's talk about ritual as doing things daily. And so I, every day, always have some sort of hot beverage, herbal type thing that I make every day. And I feel that this is something that's good for me to have because I'm getting certain nutrients and good things that I'm adding to my body. I'm getting hydrated. It helps ground and center me throughout the day to just have my cup of brew cup of brew, whatever it is I'm making, tea or anything. And then, it really helps it's like with me all day, and I have it, and I make one or two or three during the day, and I have it. It's like a ritual that I do. It helps to remind to take care of myself, to get those plant nutrients into me, to use the herbs, make herbal teas, all those types of things. And on the 28th, which I believe is Sunday, I am doing a making I can't even remember my own title, but I'm doing a workshop on making your tea and your tisanes a magical process, making magical teas and making that a whole, like a ritual for your day. And so if you want to get into that class, that workshop, I am only offering it to Plant Priestess Circle people and people who join the Green Witch Gardening e-course. So I'm going to give it to everybody who's already has the Green Witch Gardening e-course, that are already in it. They can come into it live, but catch it live, because that's when you can ask questions of me. And I'm going to be talking about, making those magical tisanes, making a more magical process, making a more ritual process. So I'm going to be talking about all sorts of things on that. And the Green Witch Gardening e-course is discounted until Sunday, until the 28th, which is that Sunday. Oh my goodness. Let's get the calendar up. Yeah, that's Sunday. So it's like 40% off. It's usually $497 and it's $297. So that expires on the 20. Actually, I think it expires before that. What time on Sunday? I believe I have it at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. There's details in the Plant Priestess Exploration Facebook group, and I'll find that and post it again in the group. So yeah, those rituals that we can do every day to, bring ourselves back to that plant priestess within that we were talking about in the Plant Priestess Exploration Workshop. And many of you feel that strong connection to the herbal world, to the plant world, and to infuse it into your life daily. This is a very simple ritual that you can do daily. Make yourself a cup of tea. Some of you may have other rituals that you do daily. Getting outside for me is something that I definitely want to do daily, because I want to connect and synchronize with the cycles of nature. And even when it's cold out, I even, it's just stepping outside to get the mail. Like, I make that moment, that time out there, that brief amount of time, to be something where I'm connecting with nature. And certainly when it gets warmer, there's all sorts of other fun rituals that can be done outside. So those daily rituals that we do, we may not necessarily think of them as rituals. We may think of them as habits, but they're getting us towards something that we want. They're helping us create something. Some people will use the word manifest something. We're trying to get to a desired health result. We're trying to connect with nature. We're trying to connect with the plant priestess within, help ground ourselves and calm ourselves. These are little rituals that we do throughout the day. And in that class I'm doing on the 28th, I'll talk about more of how using, our magical tisanes, making that more of a magical process. And so then we get into rituals that are done less frequently. We do them, again, for a desired result. So for me, I like to do seed blessing rituals. I like to do garden rituals, waking up the garden, saying, like good night or farewell to it as we go into the fall equinox. And so I typically like to do some sort of, setting the space. Some people will draw a circle around themselves or visualize that. Anything to help you make yourself feel safe and comfortable and away from prying eyes, usually. And sometimes my setting of space means that I'll wait for it to be a little bit darker and quieter outside so that I don't have the prying eyes of the neighbors, or find a space in my yard or maybe somewhere else in nature where I feel like I'm very connected with nature, with the source, with the great spirit, whichever word you want to use, but really connected to that spirit energy, and kind of try to get the mundane physical world to blur out a little bit so I can connect. So then usually once that container, that space is set, then I like to acknowledge the elements that help me every day, the spirits, the ancestors, everything around me that's helping, that I'm a part of. And then after that, then I'll go into the main part of the ritual, which is what I'm doing for a desired result. Am I trying to create a new garden? Am I trying to create prosperity in my garden? Am I trying to connect with the plant priestess within? There's usually things that you do in the middle of the ritual, the kind of center, you build the energy, you build, your emotion to help direct it to a desired result. And then after that whole piece is done, then usually there's a acknowledging again of the helpers and the directions, the elements. There's different ways that people will do that, but kind of bringing it down. It's kind of like after a party, you've had the main party, you've done the thing, you've done the celebration, and then you start to say, goodbye to people, thank you for coming, thank you for bringing these things. And then eventually you open the doors, or you open your circle, you open your visual, you move to a different space, you come out of your protected space, and now that ritual is over. So those are the basics. Ceremonies are the same type of setup. They can also be even more elaborate. Rituals can be as well. But ceremonies usually involve more people, and they're usually to celebrate something. They're usually to celebrate solstice or equinox. Rituals can do the same too. But with more people, it's more of a celebration. It can be somebody's committing themselves to, marriage, or somebody had a child and they're introducing it to the community. Ceremonies are usually bigger. That's how I see it. Some people use ritual and ceremony, the words interchangeably, but I typically see ceremony as something bigger, and usually celebrating, acknowledging, or building intention towards something that is not done as often. So daily rituals happen daily, usually. And then you have these other rituals that you do throughout your life because you want something to come to you. You want to celebrate something. You want to acknowledge something. You want to get rid of something. And ceremonies usually bigger and is usually to celebrate something that's not as common. Like I said, marriages, people who dedicate themselves to something. So that's how I use those terms, but there's overlap with them, and there's similarities and differences. Now let me just check the comments quick. Let's see. Let's see here. You're welcome, Alana. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Animistic approach to my garden. Sounds like I have an animistic approach. Yeah, I would say that. I do definitely think that things in nature have their own way to communicate. And that's what Plant Priestess is all about, is to be intermediaries with plants and humans so that we can communicate in a way that we all can understand. Amy says she created a moon patio in my backyard. That's really cool. Love that. Yeah, full moon rituals, dark moon rituals, those are very common too, and it helps to synchronize with nature. I'll be doing a small ritual to awaken my rose of Jericho. That's cool. So you're actively participating with the plant, helping it through. Okay, so now I've kind of explained, how people and how I use the words ritual and ceremony. But why is it important to make sure that we do these, especially, as we explore our plant priestess within? Because ritual and ceremony do a number of things. They help us punctuate things that are happening and make them help to create a specialness about them so that we honor it, that we remember it, that it becomes something that we're giving our energy and our attention to. So, we can honor things, we can direct our energy, help our minds and spirit and body to pay attention to something that we want to create in our lives. It also helps to create that feeling of specialness towards something. That feels really good. We don't have to do these things. We don't have to honor nature. Nature will persist with or without these rituals and dedications and ceremonies. But I do think that it is a specialness. It's just like we don't have to celebrate birthdays and holidays, but it feels really good. It feels fun. It creates memories. It helps us to know and teach others around us what we value, what we want in our lives. And so it is a really important part of being a plant priestess, and helps to really get us to connect with those things that we want to bring forth into our lives even more, and to communicate with things around us, with other beings around us and energies that we appreciate. We are here to create a connection. It's part of the relationship building. It's a way to get into a frame of mind and energetic space where we can be those intermediaries and connect and find time to let the physical world, kind of blur out, and so that we can bring ourselves into more of an energetic space. Because humans, we're very physically focused, and to connect into the energy, into the spirits, and to the plants and nature beings around us, we have to shift into a different space. And rituals and ceremonies and spells, all these words that we use to shift energy, to take our minds into a different place, these are tools that we use to do it. So I think that a life without ritual and ceremony is dull, it's boring. These are ways that we celebrate, that we honor, and there are other ways that we can do that, but ceremony and ritual help us to do that. So it's kind of like around the winter solstice time, when there's quite a few holidays that are being celebrated by different religions and groups of people. Even though I may not celebrate those types of holidays, the fact that everybody is doing some sort of celebrating and building up to celebrate, the time during the winter solstice when everybody's doing gift giving and decoration and there's songs coming out, even though we may not all be celebrating the same thing, there is an energy that builds during that time. And it's probably, in the United States, one of the biggest ceremonies really that's happening throughout the country. And then, of course, other places in the world are also doing those same celebrations. But it's just this building of energy. We get to the day, which is around December 22nd to the 25th. And, around that time, there's other holidays that are around that time. But usually during that span of time, the energy is then really built because people are finally having the celebration or the ceremony in some ways. They're getting together, they're gift giving, and that peak is like the middle of the ceremony. afterwards, people are still celebrating. There's still some holidays. There's other holidays that are happening around that time, but the peak happens, and then everything kind of comes down. So people feel that post-holiday blues, and in some ways, it's because we've had this big energy that built, and then it just kind of deflated and goes nowhere. So there is kind of, in my house, I like to, even after the peak feeling of this, the holiday is done, there's still other people celebrating. There's still some get-togethers happening. And I keep, all the decorations up and everything because we're still doing the celebration. We're not done. And I feel like sometimes when people have their holiday, their holy day, it's like, okay, now we're done. Now we don't do this. But even in ceremony, you would slowly come out of the ceremony as well. So in some ways, there's this like days, weeks long ceremony that's happening in populations in the United States and countries. They're huge. We don't necessarily think of it that way, but that's what's happening. Energy's built, and then it's done, and you kind of have that letdown. So after ceremonies and rituals, we usually have a grounding time where we visualize any extra energy that we didn't use, that we did use, that's kind of floating out there. We envision it going back down to the ground where it was, or back to the elements. We think of it as going back somewhere else and not just like floating all around the place. So that energy has to go somewhere. Because if we don't do that, sometimes it kind of feels like the energy's a little weird after a ceremony, really excited. And after a ceremony, you may feel really high energy, feel really great, if that's the kind of a ceremony or ritual that was being done. And that's okay. But we also have to remember that at some point when we come out of the celebration and the energy movement, that we go back into our flow of life as well. So that whole transition has to happen. And I think sometimes if it isn't done, feel a little disoriented after a ceremony or ritual, if, things weren't processed, afterwards. And, even after sweat lodges, which is basically it's a ceremony, it's a ritual, it has components to it. You come out of the sweat lodge and you just don't get in your car, go home, watch a movie, right? We came out of a sweat lodge. There was time to eat, get, back into our clothing or shower or what have you, and eat and be together with everybody and discuss what happened and just, process what happened. What did I experience? What just happened? What did I experience? What do I need to talk about? What do I don't need to talk about? And that, if you don't do that, it just kind of feels like, what happened? What just happened? I want to process that. So after a ceremony, there's usually some form of food or drink, gathering afterwards to figure out what just happened. So yeah. Joan is saying ceremony and ritual help me to connect to the spirit that exists in all living things. Yes, exactly. It's a special time. It's a special time. And sometimes rituals and ceremonies aren't being done because something happy is happening. If we're going through grieving, if we're trying to let go of some bad thing that happened to us, these can also be tools to help shift and move that energy. I live where no one can see me, but I like waiting until dark or near dark because I feel that the veil is thinner then, right? So you feel, and having an element of darkness takes away our visual senses, and we're very visual as humans. And that taking away those senses can help us use our intuition, and that's those other energy feeling senses that we have come out stronger too. The Great Cosmic Mother. You know what? I think I have that book, but I haven't read it through and through. So do I recommend it? Well, I can't necessarily say if I didn't read it through, but I know it has I'm just trying to see where, I'm pretty sure it's over there. Oh, is that it? Yes. Here it is. Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. It's big. Look at this. This is big. I've had it for a very long time. But yes, this is a very common book. It's been around for a long time. Very common in terms of it's been cited by other earth-centered, nature-centered spiritual religions. It's these two authors here are well known. So no, I haven't read it through and through, but I'm glad you mentioned it because it is something for me to pick up again. Required reading for women who care about our history and the fate of the world. Their knowledge of women's early shamanic practices and ways of life, our deep connection to the moon, and the necessity of reclaiming the primacy of our biological blood mysteries. The book is politically forceful and deeply insightful about women in culture. That's by Vicky Noble, and then Susan Budapest wrote in here too. Those are two authors that are really well known as well. So Amy is saying, I love it. It's open to the moon, a fire pit, a couple benches, and some mats. So I can do yoga meditation out there. Shielded enough from my neighbors. Got enough space to set out my crystals. It's a work in progress. Yeah, setting a space for ritual and ceremony is definitely helpful. I know I've talked about altars in here as a place to be able to see the things that you're honoring in your life. So that, as we talk about ritual and ceremony in the Plant Priestess Circle, we do ebb into altars too. Oh, yeah. So Coastal Animus, let me see. Good to hear. I've been thinking about buying it, though I'm a guy trying to connect with the goddess. Yeah, this would be definitely one to start with. It's even got pictures in it, so it is thick, but it does have a lot of historical information and archaeological evidence in there too. Yes, Alana, you did spy an old school library checkout card. This is, I don't know why there's one in there, but I don't even know. I don't know if I bought this book. Oh, it was in the discard pile. So it was UWEC was getting rid of some books. And yes, there's an old checkout in there. Oh my goodness. Hey, Heather. Yeah, I've tried to describe old checkout systems in the library to my kids, and I even showed them an old card catalog that one of the libraries still has just for display. And they're like, oh, wow, that's really crazy. All right. So that was a really brief overview of ceremonies and rituals. We could talk about this for a long time, I'm sure. And we do talk about these things in the Plant Priestess Circle. There's many ways to do rituals and ceremonies. There's different, traditions, different cultures. But what I would say is, and I know somebody shared this in the Plant Priestess Exploration Facebook group, that they did do a ritual and they were worried that they did it wrong. And if your intention is good, you can't really do it wrong, because if you feel good about it, you're honoring something, you're giving thanks and gratitude, and you're just doing the best that you can to, in this case, somebody was honoring some other beings. I think it was the birds that had died. And so, ceremony and ritual has been created by humans over time, and we started doing it, without books and the internet and people telling us how it should be done. But over time, with observation, cultures have come along and made these things. And sometimes I think there's too many rules around rituals and ceremonies, and it gets to be kind of like, hey, we know how to do this. Our group knows how to do it better than your group does. And I don't think that's healthy or helpful. I certainly will honor other, if I go into somebody's culture, somebody's group, and they say this is the way we do our ceremonies and rituals, I do honor that. If you're doing these on your own, solitary, starting on your own, just go with what's feeling good. You're not do no harm. You're there to bring your energy and to honor things and to direct energy. Yeah, Alana, yeah, some birds that had frozen, that was very kind of you to do that. And I saw a lady on the internet who posts pictures of honoring dead animals. She actually takes flowers and other nature bits around and will create these beautiful circles and shapes and put things on the dead animals that she sees in a way to honor them. It's beautiful. Yeah. All right, everybody. So that's what I have. I'm going to post information in the Plant Priestess Exploration group and on my Erin Lefebvre Herbalist Facebook profile for those of you watching on YouTube, the information about the Green Witch Gardening e-course and how it's 40% off right now. But it involves spring, summer, fall lessons from start to finish, how to get your garden going, whether it's vegetables, herbs, fruits. Gives you things to consider if you're starting or if you already have a garden and you want to create it more of the ritual and the spirituality with it. There's definitely things in there to help you as well. There's all sorts of goodies in there, even information on herbal plants for herbal use. And like I said, there's a live class that's going to be involved coming up too for people who sign up. So. All right, everybody, thanks for joining. I'll see you next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time right here. Or if you've watched the replay, let me know. Bye-bye.